Hi everyone and welcome. In today's video, I'm going to be inking on die cuts to create a lot of depth and dimension to the image. Now, what I'm going to be using today is the Hero Arts card kit for April 2025. I'm also going to quickly show you some of the other subscriptions that they have and some inspiration that I created using that. But with the inking on die cuts technique that I'm going to show today, I'm kind of creating this terrarium scene, which is just absolutely magical. So let's take a look at the hero subscriptions that are offered for April 2025 and what those look like. The first thing we have is the clear set. So I think they call this the stamp and cut now. It is a clear stamp set with coordinating dies. This set is layering images. So you have some leaves, there's also flowers that you can layer up to create your image. There's also this guide. So it's on a clear acetate sheet and I was able to use that guide to create this beautiful card. But you could also stamp the images, die cut them, and use them individually on your card project. Now, next we have the layering stencil. I'm always such a huge fan of the layering stencils. This one is a four-piece set to create this jungle background. And I have inspiration to share with this, but this was really fun to play with. The greens, I don't know, I'm kind of in a green mood. I really like the different shades of green that Hero Arts offers. Here is my inspiration that I'm sharing where I kind of have that in one of those arch windows. Now, next we have the die set. So, if you're interested in having actual die cuts outside of the kit, here are some additional ones that you can pick up. There's also that die cut word hello. Then we have the cling background stamp. This is out of red rubber and it has kind of that raindrop or puddles type of looking background for it. And now on to our card kit. So the card kit itself has this beautiful like terrarium scene complete with a little frog and some mushrooms. You have coordinating dies for all of those images and the sentiment, but then there's also a separate die set. And this is a fancy die set collection. You also have that arch there to actually create a terrarium. Plus, there are additional or items in the kit that come with it. I have some of them here. We have the clear drops, the clear card panels, and then I believe there's some cardstock. And then one quick thing before I jump into my card is the bonus item. So if you sign up for the Hero Studio for everything, you will get this clear stamp and die set for free with that purchase. And if you're interested in any of the products that I'm showing today, they will be linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. So the first thing I'm doing is taking that arch, which is in the card kit, and I'm die cutting that out of a white piece of cardstock. Now, this is meant to go with another die that's included in the card kit to actually create a terrarium on the front of the card, but I want to create a window scene. So I want everything to be set inside of my window. So once I created that window, I went ahead and die cut out a bunch of different elements from the kit, starting with the butterfly. Of course, I'm going to start with the butterfly. I started on the base layer of the butterfly by inking it with yellow and then I'm going to come in on around the outer edges using, I think this was tangerine. I am going to have all of the colors linked down below as well. And that color combination is stunning with the black detailed layer. For all of the vine pieces or the leafery that we have, I am starting with yellow going around the outside edges of the leaves. I'm going to do this for my other die cut pieces as well. And then I'm going to start building up that color with various shades of green. So I'm starting with moss and I'm going to start in the center with this color, kind of blending out towards those outer edges. By starting with that yellow, it is really going to add kind of a glowing effect, which really adds to the whole magical element that I was trying to create. So once I did that for all of those die cut pieces, I am bringing in Forever Green, which is a darker shade. And I'm going to go around the outer edge of kind of this swirly piece. But then for the other two, I'm going to take a small blending brush and go up the center and really darken those up. When I am adding that darker color, it's making the yellow pop out even more. Now, the other die cut pieces I have are, I want to say like a mossy bed, which is so cool to layer up in your scene. Again, I started with the yellow on one side. Then I turned it and I'm adding those same two shades of green around the outer or around that edge, around the other side of the yellow. So one side is going to be green, one side is going to have that yellow to give it that magical glow. Now, a few other elements in there is like a base that you can create for your terrarium. I didn't use any of those images, but they would be really fun to layer up. I am going to use the tree trunk, which does come in a two-piece or the tree stump. So this first one I'm blending with sand, which is a nice light color. I'm also going to do it on my tree stump piece, but then I'm going to go around at the outer edge of that stump with a cup of joe. Now you could absolutely start with colored cardstock. I really just sometimes I'm in the mood for die cutting from white and then building up that color myself. We also have some cute little mushrooms that I also die cut from white cardstock. So the top of the mushrooms, I believe I used a pale tomato. But then to add some of that, I don't want to say dingy, but to have it mix with my scene a little better, I'm coming in with a little bit of cup of joe to add the shading. And now I can start assembling everything, starting with the mushrooms. Now, what's really funny is when I first started this card project, I said to myself, nope, I'm not doing a bunch of die cutting. I was going to do the tree stump, the butterfly, and maybe a fern or two. But then as I started ink blending, I kept bringing in more and more elements because the scene just really started to come together. I loved having that kind of glowing effect to everything. So it was just kind of comical to me how I started out with a very simple idea. I wasn't going to go crazy. And then the more I got into it, the more my scene just really started to build and come together. Now I am going to need a background for my window, and I'm once again going to bring in those same colors that I used in my greenery. So I'm starting with, I think this was Butter Bar, and I'm using a large blending brush. This happens to be from Spellbinders because it's super, super soft and feathery. I'm starting in the center because that's where I'm going to have my focal point and my sentiment. So I blended that up towards the top, and then I'm going to go around at the outer edges, starting with moss. So that one will kind of blend into the yellow, and it has such a nice soft transition into the yellow. My idea with this is to have darker on the outside. So I'll bring in the forever, I think it's forever green. And then I have that beautiful glow in the center, which is really going to highlight the focal point and that sentiment. Next, I'm going to bring in my Splat Box, some white acrylic spray from Hero Arts, and a paintbrush. I mixed it with just a drop or two of water, and then I'm going to flick this onto all of the elements. Now, I do have extra because I created a few extra off screen just in case, but I'm also going to splatter the actual background itself. My window frame, I am going to line the back of that with some thin foam strips so that I can pop it up. Then I can start building my scene. So before I attach my frame down, I'm going to start building, starting with that mossy ground. Like I said, there are some other pieces that you could build to actually create a terrarium that's more on top of your card front, but mine's going to be more of inside of that window. So I'm building it up first with the mossy ground, just using tape runner for that. Then I have the tree trunk. I did use some thin foam squares for the tree trunk. And then I start playing around with the arrangement of those ferns or all of the leaves and the greenery, the foliage. So I started kind of playing around with that. And then once again, I'll be using a tape runner to adhere it down. You can use your liquid glue. I didn't want to pop any of that greenery up because I already have lift and dimension with the foam strips on the back of my window. Now, anything in the center of the card that I can pop up because that's open space. That's an open window. And you can see every now and then I'm bringing in that frame to double check, see how it's actually going to look, make sure it's inside of the frame. And then once I'm happy with how that's all looking, I'm saving the butterfly for last with the sentiment. I'm going to add a liquid glue to the back of my foam tape because I had actually pulled the release paper off of those foam strips before I was ready, so I touched it a lot. So by using the liquid glue, I was kind of helping it make sure it really set in. I added my mushrooms. One of them I did use some foam squares for. And then once everything is kind of placed down, I can take my scissors and just trim off any of the excess. Now, one of the reasons I actually was saving the butterfly is because I needed to have a sentiment stamped out first. So this sentiment is coming off of that large stamp set in the card kit. I'm going to stamp it in black ink and then I can trim it out with the coordinating die. I die cut it out one or two more times from just plain white cardstock, and I also added some thin foam squares behind it, so it's going to really pop in the front of the card. I decided to place that towards the top, and then my butterfly is also going to be popped up with some foam squares. And at the time, I wasn't sure if I wanted my sentiment down further, more towards the center of the card, so that's why I kind of waited to add the butterfly. Now, with the butterfly, I am adding some stickles because I just had to have some sort of glittery shine on my project. I also added it to the white spots of the mushrooms. And then I am using these clear drops from the card kit to embellish the rest of the window. So, from starting with an idea of just creating maybe with one or two elements and just expanding to create this entire scene, you can see how much fun this kit is to play with. And think of all the different color variations that you could create with it too. I will have all of the supplies that I used today linked down below in the video description and over on my blog. Thank you all so much for joining me today, and I will see you again soon.